du bureau. Je pensais par sa participation au programme. Ce qui est fait aujourd'hui, je précise, au lieu de prendre la décision à Ottawa, il y a un changement de leadership, c'est-à-dire que le président du parti, c'est un projet qui est un ministre des Affaires étrangères, a changé contre
Merci Madame la Schwartz pour votre explication. Pour ceux qui étaient
that the Executive Committee took yesterday. The Executive and Congress of Liberal International authorizes the officers and Bureau of LI to temporarily suspend Article 9 of the LI Constitution in order to halt the procedure of disaffiliation of members for non-payment of membership subscriptions, in order to allow the Bureau to take, I suppose it is, there's a typo here, to take all possible steps to assist member parties in making necessary arrangements to repay arrear amounts. Is there any other comment or objection? If there are no comments or objections, I will take it that we are ready to adopt this decision that has been brought to us by the Executive Committee. It is so decided. Now we turn to the election of officers. That's item 11, and I will give the floor to the Secretary General, who will inform us of the procedure for the election of officers. There's the office of President, Deputy President, Vice Presidents on the Bureau, up to 6, and Treasurers 2 to be elected today. And I understand that we have a new procedure, a bit more modern in terms of technical materials that we will use. So, Mr. Secretary General, please explain the new procedure.
Thank Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, now that we have concluded the issues of membership, I can officially declare voting open and ready to commence. The polling booths will be open from 9 a.m. this morning. We ask, however, that the parties that have just been admitted, please can you just wait until 12:30 to vote. We have to make preparations for your voting. It was not obviously confirmed yet by the Congress at the time of preparing our voters' roll that you would be admitted as full members. We now have to undertake that process. So please, the APR delegation, the Khadi delegation, and the Canadian Liberal group are asked to please wait until 12:30 before heading to the voting booths to start that process. The President is in fact correct. We have updated our or digitized our voting system along the lines of the same voting system as the elder group. However, our requirements around the voting system are different and remain different. There is no constitutional requirement or statutory requirement for a voting system within ALI. However, through procedure and decision of previous ECs and Congresses, we have adopted or utilizing an STV system, which is a single transferable vote system. There's no requirement in our Constitution as to what form of the STV we are required to use. However, we are using a very basic form of the STV system, which will be used today. I will now explain the system to you very basically. We have already explained it to the scrutineers this morning who attended a meeting between 7 and 8, and I will briefly explain that system to you today. For each one of the races that we have today, we have an STV system, which means candidates need to be ranked. That includes the candidates who are standing unopposed. So when your candidate, in the case of the candidates that will stand unopposed, you will have two options. You'll be able to rank the candidate as number one, or you will be able to abstain from voting for the candidate. In the second case, where we have 7 vice presidents running for 6 roles, you will be required, or you are able to list from 1 to 7 your preference of candidates. You are not required to list all 7. You may list 1 to 3, 1 to 4, a single one. So in that case, it's not a requirement to list all candidates, but you can list 1 to 7 to indicate your preference. In the case of treasurers, we have 3 candidates. You will list your preference for the candidates 1 to 3, or just 1, or 1 and 2, but you have to make a single preference in that case. I think that is clear. The way that the STV system works is it's based on 2 key components. The first is what we call the quota, and then the Droop formula. The quota is a simple calculation. You take the total number of valid votes. That number is being updated after the addition of additional members to ALI this morning. But for example, let's use the figure of 580 votes that were considered valid before the addition of members this morning. We take the 580 votes, we divide it by the total number of candidates, and you add 1 to get the quota. Any candidate that gets through the first round with the quota is considered duly elected. I will try and slow it down. So the quota is the number of votes divided by the total number of candidates plus 1. That gives us what we call the quota, and any candidate that... No, total number of candidates. All right, I just want to be clear, this is the system that we have determined. We have worked with our auditors and the company together, OneTech. So if the STV system differs from, Phil, the system that you know, or if it differs from the system that is used by the DA, I'm afraid that that system is the parties used internally. This is a system that has been adopted for this Congress in line with the requirement that we have to use an STV system. So this is the system that we've adopted, and we are able to adopt it in this way. So if I can continue.
Well, Gordon, the question is, we have 6 vacant posts for the vice president. We have 7 candidates. Why do we have the ranking from 1 to 7 and not 1 to 6? So it would be much, for me, more convincing that you have only so many ticking possibilities as we have seats available.
All right, Manfred, just as explained, you don't have to rank 1 to 7. You can rank only 1, or you can rank all 7. So it's not a requirement. Also, the 7th rank doesn't actually apply. It actually gives you a total of 0. So essentially you're ranking 1 to 6. But we have to rank all candidates. We have the opportunity to rank all candidates to give them a number, so we have a data output. All right, it's a pleasure. We have the quota, as I've just explained. Anyone who crosses that quota is considered duly elected. Then we're in the cases where people have not passed the quota and we have not fully elected all 6 positions or two positions in terms of the treasurer. We apply what we call the Droop formula, which is a simple process whereby the persons who are duly elected, their second preferences get redistributed to the next remaining voters. Once that process, we then run a second calculation, and that will give us an output, and anyone who crosses the quota is then considered duly elected. If we are still not at the 6, which is highly, highly unlikely because we only have 7 candidates, the Droop formula then goes to the first candidate that has been eliminated at the bottom, and we redistribute their preference votes back up to the remaining candidates, and that will then bring us to the conclusion of the process. We do not expect to have to run the Droop quota, the Droop formula more than twice. So it is expected that we will have, after the second round, we will have the full list of 6 because there are only 7 candidates, and in terms of the treasurer, we should have a result almost immediately. So we will happily explain the process again downstairs to the scrutineers who were not present this morning. Our audit firm, OneTech, will assist us in that process. I need to also announce that our electoral officer from Ally will be Sophia Slaughter, who is a member of my team. We will not have access to any of the end data. So to understand when your delegation goes to vote, you will register to vote. You will need your badge and a positive proof of identification because we do not know you by face, so you will need both requirements. The delegation does not need to send more than 1 voter. It can send more than 1 voter if so desired. However, 1 member of the delegation can be allocated the full votes. Obviously, from a democratic process, we would prefer if the votes were split amongst the delegates, but for example, some delegations have only 1 delegate here and have 25 votes, so it's not practical. We have to allow a proxy vote in which we allow 1 person to carry the full weight of the delegation. So that's how that process will follow. You will enter the voting area. You will be registered at the voting desk where we will verify your details. You'll be given a 4-digit code which will allow you to access a digital system. You will enter your code. You will then enter your preferences through the presidential vote, the deputy presidential vote, the vote for vice presidents, and the vote for treasurer. And then that data will be sent off to the auditors who are OneTech, and only they will see how each individual voted and the vote tally. Ally will only have access to the cumulative data, end data. So we will not see at any point in the procedure how any delegation voted. We will only see the end data, i.e. the candidate and the amount of number 1s received in the first round, the candidate and the amount of number 1s received in the second, and that output data. So the elections will open at 9 o'clock this morning. They will end at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The result will become available in our final Congress session this afternoon at approximately 7:30. I will announce those results. If there are additional questions, we are more than happy to deal with them with our auditors downstairs. We can take you through the system. We have no hassles. This morning there were no distinct questions from any of the scrutineers. The process is functioning, it is working, everything is clear. But if there are additional questions, of course we are ready to answer them. I think there might be some additional questions from the floor, but I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Secretary General, before I give the floor to members, I would like to just let's go back and just understand. When the delegates will go into their booths, they will have with them a 4-digit code, and they will have to punch in the 4-digit code first.
Yes.
All right. Is the machine that they will find there, will we prompt them, will it ask them to enter the 4-digit code? Yes. It's self-explanatory?
Yes, Mr. President. So you will essentially, there are 2 booths or there are 2 seats in the area. You cannot see how an individual is voting. You will sit down in front of an iPad, and what you will have is an initial prompt that will say, please enter your 4-digit code. This gives you access to the voting system. You cannot use an ulterior code. This code can only be given to those who are registered and are deemed valid delegates. They will enter the code. What will immediately appear is the screen that will ask you, do you vote for the president? As I said, you can rank the president as number 1, or you can abstain from voting for the president. Immediately a next screen will pop up. you will have a situation where the same question is applied to the Deputy President position, which is also uncontested. It will ask you, do you vote for Karl-Heinz Piquet or do you abstain from voting? Once you do that, it will disappear. Then a screen will come up with the 7 pictures of the Vice Presidents, and you merely indicate your preference by touching the screen. So if, for example, if I may use Astrid as an example, she is your number 1, you touch on her face, and what will happen is the number 1 will appear on her face as your first preference. If you want to go for number 2 is Robert, you push Robert, and so on, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you make a mistake in that process, there is a button clearly marked Cancel Order. It will allow you to restart just that page. If, for example, you vote completely incorrectly from the whole process, you can merely go back to the, literally just go back. They will reset your vote. They will issue you with a new 4-digit code, and you can re-vote. So if there's any confusion or any misunderstanding, the vote can merely be deleted. You'll be issued with a fresh code, and you'll then be assisted. We will have, as I said, our electoral officer is available. They will be able to assist you if you have a specific question, but you will see that the system is designed very much like the elder system to be very intuitive, very simple to use, and I don't think you'll have any, once you're in front of the screen, it's all very self-explanatory. I have a question from Astrid.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. Astrid, you have the floor. We need the microphone for Ms. Thor. Astrid, now you have the floor.
If you have a possibility to use proxy votes, how do you do in that case? Are you forced to vote in the same way with all your 4 or 5 votes or 25 votes?
Astrid, so we had anticipated that where a proxy, they would have received an instruction from a delegation to vote in one way, but that can be accommodated. So for example, if you are the proxy voter and you have 5 delegates, you can allocate to yourself as Astrid Thors 5 votes, and you can vote in one way, and then we can allocate a second tranche of votes from, say, the 10 that your party has allocated, and you might then choose to do separate preferences. So it is possible to diverge in the voting. We can break it up amongst it, but just it has to be divided amongst the total number of delegates. So for example, if you have 5 delegates, you have 25 votes, you can divide 5 equally between, or you can give 1 25 or 2 10, but more differentiation than that the system cannot accommodate.
Give the floor to Manfred.
Well, Mr. President, thank you. The Germans are very democratically based, and we have 5 delegates, and we share the 25 votes equally. But I have the question, I have my individual vote as member of the Bureau, and I have 5 votes now for FDP. Do I have to go through the procedure 5 times, or can I allocate my 5 votes in one single race?
So Manfred, because you're a member of the Bureau and you also have a personal vote, you have a vote in your capacity as a Bureau member, the 1 vote, which you will allocate, you will do separately, and then as a delegate member, you allocate the 5, yes. So you will get issued 2 codes, and you'll enter your first one for your Bureau vote, and then your second code will be for your 5 votes from the German Liberal group, or the FDP. FDP, that's correct. Yes, you only need to, once you're at registration, we allocate you 5 votes in your name, and all 5 are applied in the same way. Yes.
Margaret.
Well, if you have a few delegates here and you want to give each a chance to vote, can you split all your votes up?
Yes, Margaret, in fact you can. So you have 10 votes and you can split them amongst your members. You just need to bring those delegates with you to vote. They need to be valid delegates in terms of the information that we have. They need to produce their badge, their identification, and then you can say we would like to divide our vote, 2 votes, 2 votes, 2 votes, 7 votes, 1 vote. It'll be allocated like that. Yeah.
Just be aware that you need to bring some piece of identification.
Yeah, that's difficult. We all have to go back to the hotel. Pity we didn't know this morning. Oh, would that be enough? I've got that with me, I think.
No, I'm afraid to ensure the validity of the system, we have to have a form of identification. They are members of
but it can be a driving license.
Yeah, that's fine. Any form of identification that matches up to your name and your badge will be accepted.
Mr. Secretary General, there are more questions or comments. If there are none, let me just ask you something. So these votes, they go to some machine somewhere, and some people actually look at those votes, but not us, and then they send us the results. How do we ensure that the system works well?
All right, so we have, it doesn't go anywhere, it stays within the building, so it is with us. What I was merely pointing out is that because we give you an individual identification code, we can, for example, see on the computer how Robert voted. So to protect Robert's vote, his vote secrecy, we as LI will not have access to Robert's individual vote data. What we will have is access to the data of the votes allocated to Robert in the voting process. We can obviously request an audit of those figures, or we can, for example, have, if a request comes from scrutineers to say we're wanting to query specific data, we can do that, but each individual who votes has a right to secrecy of their vote. And the only way to ensure that is that the auditors and the firm providing us with the service, OneTech, have access to the individual data of individuals who are voting. We will not have access to that in terms of making sure that we protect the vote of our delegates.
The people of OneTech are here?
Yes, the people of OneTech are with us. They're the long-term supplier of the voting system to ALDA, so they are well known to the Liberal family. They have an impeccable track record of delivery in terms of these results. We believe they are office bearers acting in good faith, and we have no reason to doubt the validity of the information that they would provide us.
Very good, thank you. I think in this day and age it's always good to know where the votes are going and who is looking at them. Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions on the voting? So at 9 o'clock, from 9 to 12? 9 to 1. 9 to 1, the booths will be open. You need to avail yourselves of some piece of ID plus your vote, and then you will be issued a code, and you will be able to enter the booth. And once you've punched your code, you have a series of questions. You can correct if you think that what appears on the screen is not exactly what you want to do, whether you rank one way or another. And if everything is messy, you can always go back and cancel the vote and start again. And then these data will go to the scrutineers, who will then provide us with the aggregate numbers, if I understand correctly. That will be announced tonight at 7:30 p.m. approximately. Yes? So it's important also for the validity of the system that the results and whatever are kept under wraps until the time in which they are announced. So that's important too. Good.
I will discuss. So, Mr. President, two facts. The only person who will have access to the final vote tallies is myself and the auditing firm, so no one will know the result until I announce it. It will be only with me, so stick around before you leave tonight, and otherwise you won't know the result. Secondly, please note that we are going to be incredibly strict about voting. Voting closes promptly at 1 o'clock. You will note we are holding the election in Salle. Sorry, I just need to double check the name. It's a French name. Just give me a second. Salle Interval, which is downstairs, literally below the restaurant where we were for lunch yesterday. There is a perimeter door, which is a black glass door. Anyone inside of the perimeter at 1 o'clock will be allowed to vote. Anyone outside the perimeter at 1 o'clock will not be allowed to vote. So 1:1, you're not voting. So please make sure that you are at the voting booths before 1 o'clock and within the range of the perimeter. So we will not allow or will not admit any additional votes after 1 o'clock, and it's up to delegations to make sure that they are there promptly, please.
And just for clarification, there are several delegations that we have admitted to full membership. Do they have voting rights?
Yes, they do. As I've indicated, the three parties that were admitted today as full members will have their voting rights updated this morning. We will allocate your figures. We have to just investigate your vote tallies in the most recent election, apply it to a formula to allocate your votes. Each party or group starts off with 5 votes, and then you get, for every 100,000 votes you have at a national election, you get an additional number of votes.
Yes, Manfred.
Mr. President, could the Secretary General please announce what is the number of the voting rights of the new parties? So we have that not in our list previously.
Manfred, we don't have that figure yet. My team are working on making the calculation this morning. We will be able to make it available later today. I will announce that with the result, if that is okay, to say that the parties have that allocation. The only allocation that we can concretely discuss right now is that the Canadian Liberal Group will have 10 votes. Yeah. All right. But the other votes for the Khadi Party and for APR have to be determined in terms of their most recent elections. So we are just verifying that information with the parties and also verifying it with public information, and then they will be added. Therefore, APR, Khadi Party and the Canadian group can only vote from 12:30 onwards. We need to prepare and make sure that we have the correct numbers so we can update the system.
Very good. Make sure that you liaise with the representatives of these parties here so that they don't feel lost or then they arrive too late for voting if they wish to vote and whatnot. All right. Thank you very much. Any more comments or questions? None? Yes, Minister Hume. Vous avez la parole.
Juste pour clarifier, est-ce que l'APR qui est devenu membre à part entière aura la possibilité de voter? Parce que apparemment,
pardon, Monsieur le Ministre, je crois que nous n'avons pas de traducteur. Ça ne marche pas.
Si la traduction est là.
Oui, c'est bien.
Il faut juste mettre les casques.
D'accord. Allez-y, allez-y.
Alors c'était juste pour voir, parce que d'après la dernière explication de Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, c'était pas trop clair. Nous sommes devenus membres, full member. Est-ce qu'on a la possibilité de voter? Est-ce qu'il y a des vérifications à faire?
Je vous explique.
Quel type de vérification pour apporter des réponses?
Alors, les partis qui sont devenus membres à part entière aujourd'hui et qui le sont déjà peuvent voter. Ils vont être alloués un certain nombre de voix. Le secrétariat est en train de calculer le nombre de voix d'après les formules que nous utilisons d'habitude, d'après leur vote, etc. Et dans les dernières élections, si je comprends bien. Et les élections nationales, les élections au niveau national. Et à partir de midi à 13h, vous pourrez voter, mais pas avant midi. Midi et demi. Midi et demi, pardon. Alors, à partir de midi et demi jusqu'à 13h, vous pourrez voter. Il faut vous munir d'une pièce d'identité et des voix qui vous seront données par le secrétaire général. Alors j'ai dit tout de suite qu'il faut faire attention que les délégués des partis qui n'auront que demi-heure pour voter, en fait, parce qu'on leur donnera les votes, etc., ont la possibilité de voter s'ils le souhaitent. Donc il faut être en liaison avec le secrétaire général, les trois partis qui sont devenus membres à part entière, les Canadiens, vous et le parti de Somalie, le Cadi de Somalie. Il faut être en contact avec le secrétaire général pour qu'à 12h30 au plus tard, il vous donne les voix qui vous sont allouées et vous puissiez aller voter dans la salle intervalle, c'est ça? La salle qui s'appelle intervalle, qui est en dessous du restaurant où nous avons mangé hier. Est-ce que cela clarifie votre... Oui, parfait. Yes, oui. Le secrétaire général voudrait... attendez un instant, je vous prie. Le secrétaire général voudrait expliquer quelque chose.
Minister Hume, we have already received from your party the information in terms of what we require. We, however, have to verify that the information is correct. So we have this morning received your total vote count at the last national election and the approximate seat allocation. We, however, have to verify that information independently and apply the formula. So we have the information, we are working through it at present, and we will make sure that you are ready, your delegation or delegates or yourself as a proxy vote will be able to vote at 12:30 this afternoon.
You're talking to me?
Monsieur, vous avez la parole.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. President. I heard you mention the new members. You mentioned the Canadian Party, you mentioned the PR, and another one. I didn't hear you mention the Progressive People's Party. You have also applied for this position, and I think I've spoken to your membership, executive group in your...
If I can respond, you weren't here, but we did pass your observer membership status, has been approved. You are now an observer member of Liberal International. The Congress has approved your membership as an observer. Observers don't have voting rights, though, so only full member parties have voting rights. You have to be an observer member party before you can be a full member party.
We were observers as far back as in Morocco, and we were supposed to be members in Honduras. We explained to the Bureau that we couldn't get a visa to Honduras. We didn't have embassy in Ghana. And so I came to Germany again for the executive committee, and hoping that will be considered in Senegal. And I've been speaking to your bureau. I have conversation, I have evidence to prove that you told us it to be automatic if we come. We are here. I didn't hear our name. Thank you.
I will need to check the information that you have with us. That is not the information that is reflected in the information that I have received. However, please note that if you did not present your credentials as Andorra for whatever reason, your application has to be defended in terms of our statutes and constitution, which means that you have not applied. I will happily, I'm sure the President will now instruct me to verify the information that you have. If there is a requirement for us to rediscuss that, we will be able to do so if the President so decides. However, I will need to verify the information that you have because that is not the information that I have, and we will need to figure out where there has been a miscommunication, and we can re-communicate to the Congress, Mr. President, if a requirement. But at the moment, the information that I have is the information that we stand by. The Congress documents were released to you well in advance of this Congress on the 18th, 6 weeks before this Congress, and so if there was a problem with the information at that time, it is a requirement of the party to raise at that point an issue with the documentation. However, Mr. President, if you allow us, and if you so decide, we can verify the validity of the documentation, and we can then provide you with verification of that information, and then we as a Congress will have to decide whether we decide to admit the party.
Yes, I think there's nothing that prevents looking at what this gentleman contends, just to look at the documentation and inform me of that. But we approved the observer membership this morning, and you did get the documents 6 weeks in advance, and we have not received any communication that this documentation was not well. But please, we are an open organization. We need to, I think, verify these things, and so Secretary General, please look into it and report to me a bit later. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? No? Yes, Manfred, yes. Can we have the microphone for the Treasurer, please?
Mr. President, I think we can clarify the membership issue raised by the Mali party. But I would recommend that in the future, if a party is not represented in Congress and cannot defend the membership, we have a notion in the minutes so that we are on the safe side. Now, in the minutes from Andorra, we have only fixed those parties who were admitted and those with full membership and observer membership, and those who were disaffiliated, but we have no notion in that minute on parties. Like today, the Kosovo party is not represented and could not defend, and so therefore the status is still pending.
Thank you, Treasurer.
Just a second, Mr. President. Sorry, tomorrow you've given me some information. It's just incomplete. Could you just assist me with this? Maybe, Mr. President, if you could just give us a minute, maybe we can resolve this immediately. Just hold on a second.
A bit of patience. Yes, thank you. So as we said, the Secretary General will consult with the representative of that party and check his information. For the moment, the information we have is the one that's in the documents. Also, those documents were circulated 6 weeks in advance, and there was no communication to us that anything was out of the ordinary. Thank you very much. Let's continue then. All right. So now we will proceed with the agenda, and we will go back to the points that we decided to postpone to make sure that we dealt with membership and elections. So I bring your attention to point number 6, report of the Secretary General. Mr. Secretary General. All right, let's go to point number 5, standing orders. The Secretary General had requested to, because we have to adjourn in about 10 minutes, to give his report first, but we have not amended that, so therefore we need to go to the standing orders. You are absolutely right. So can we endorse and adopt the standing orders? If there is no objection, it is so decided. Let's go to point number 6, report of the Secretary General. Mr. Secretary General.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've given a brief report earlier in the EC, and I would like us to now just... is it ready to go, Jason? Yes. If we what we've put together, just to make it a little easier, is we've put together a Secretariat report for the last 18 months in a more interesting format. So I hope that you will find this informative as we proceed. And if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to take it. Thank you. Sound would be good, please.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir le son, s'il vous plaît, avec la vidéo? Oui? Allez. Parfait.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Liberal International, the umbrella organization of all liberal parties in the world. And we are discussing today the freedom of religion and belief. That's one of the basic human rights of the Human Rights Treaty.
What you will notice is the biggest change is that upon my appointment in the last year, which was actually a year ago, since I was appointed by the Bureau were very clear that they wanted the work of the Secretariat to be far more output focused and measurable, and we have attempted to do that this year for far more campaign-based work. So what you have seen today is the result of our campaign-based work. You will see that there's been significant social media growth, interaction growth. As I indicated yesterday, through our program with Radicale Venstre, LI has broken a record of 800,000 interactions when you combine all the interactions across our Radicale Venstre program, which is hugely significant for Liberal International. It's the first time that we've reached that kind of reach. The Bureau have been critically clear that they want Liberal International to break through the sound barrier. They wanted to build on our strengths in regions where we are strong, and particularly in Asia. And we have taken that instruction to heart this year, and we have attempted to start reforming our programs so that they are outcome-based, are measurable, and are relevant to our membership. You will hear later today, for example, from Tamara Dancheva, when she refers to her secondment, she will refer to some of the project and actionable work that we can partner with the membership parties to start delivering on real projects that can be measured in terms of empowerment of women in the political space. This is just one form of actual real support that we as a Secretariat are trying to provide for members, and on the instruction of our Bureau have been focused on making our work far more understandable to our membership, far more clear in terms of what results we are achieving for your investment in the Secretariat, and we are being very grateful for the Bureau's support over the last 12 months in this regard. I suspect, Mr. President, that the incoming President will want to enhance this focus, as she indicated yesterday in her speech to the delegates. She has a very concrete plan of what she would like to achieve in the next 12 months. She has indicated to us clearly that from January next year, she will be in the Secretariat with the Deputy President to formalize a performance contract with the Secretariat that will be performance-based, which is something that we welcome. We think it's something that is long overdue, and we believe it is something that will help us engage and support the membership far more actively. So as you can see, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, we've started on a journey this year since my appointment. It's not complete. We've had some failings, but I'm very glad to say that the team have produced and delivered on a far more structured approach to our work, a far more outcomes-based approach to our work, and we believe that this is a useful approach to making sure that the Secretariat delivers value for the investment from our membership. In terms of the remaining...
Mr. Secretary General, let me just interrupt you for a second. I would like, if possible, to request to show our thanks to the Secretariat and to the valued members of the Secretariat for their work with an applause. Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the full report is contained in the Bureau mailing. You will also notice that LI supported or organized or ran a multitude of events in the last 18 months, which is actually far more than we had done in the previous 18 months. So we would like to thank, obviously, all the staffers for leading us on that way. We've had a very active program. The President has directed us to be far more activist in our approach and far more relevant, and I think we have internalized that in terms of what we see. We've built on our communications expertise this year by employing a graphic designer and communications expert who now supports our head of communications and forms a critical component of our communications directorate. And as you have seen, we've been refocusing our work in the programmatic area, specifically on our human rights program, and based on the success of our human rights program, we will launch the Climate Justice Committee today at this Congress, and we will commence the work of the Climate Justice Committee in the first quarter of next year, once the committee has been confirmed. We have also reached out to our partners informally to see how we might work with them in the coming year. For example, we have a tentative arrangement with the Elder Group to start the Elder Party, to do a joint communications campaign next year, in the early parts of the year, in a run-up to the European elections, as we see that there's a great advantage for Liberal International to use this time to mobilize support for Liberal International through individual membership by reaching out in the database of Elder, which is very extensive, to build our own social media presence and build our own membership directly to LI. We've had initial conversations with the African Liberal Network about looking at a project that will possibly run in the second half of next year around migration. The President, or incoming President, has indicated a strong appetite for work on migration. It's a critical issue that is affecting member parties both in the global north and the global south, and the incoming president has indicated a staunch appetite for wanting to do work on this issue. I'm very pleased to say that we have received the proposal from the African Liberal Youth. Yesterday it was highlighted that ALI is working with the youth and will intensify our work with the youth. And so we have received a proposal from the African Liberal Youth on a migration project that we will partner with them on if approved by our Bureau in the beginning of next year. The proposal will be presented to the incoming president in January. So we have got a strong focus in Africa and Europe, and we are exploring what opportunities there will be for us to build on our massive successes in the last 3 years in Asia. And we'll be reaching out now that we have the Canadian group in Canada to see what projects we can extend into the North America region, as well as our revitalized proposals or our work with NDI, which makes us relevant across the world, as NDI's projects are broad-based, and they're looking, or they've recently understood the value that an international political international can offer in mobilizing responses and hardcore action on the ground. So we have a program of action. We will present this program of action to the incoming president and deputy president. It will be filtered through their own strategic objectives for the next 12 months. That will translate into a performance contract with the Secretariat that we will report by half yearly on to the Bureau. So I'm pleased to say, Mr. President, that you have introduced a far more oversight role over the Secretariat. It's about our relevance, it's about producing for the membership, and I am fully aware that the incoming leadership team will build on this and hold us accountable and make sure that the Secretariat is relevant to its membership.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. And I commend you for all these efforts and all this hard work that the Secretariat has had under your leadership in this past year and a half since the Andorra Congress. Now, at ALI, and I've always considered this, we build, on the basis of what's been done before. We've really increased our activity, and my predecessors increased their activity on top of what we've already built. We don't start in tabula rasa, we build up, and we build up, and we build up. And this has been an interesting moment of transition, which I think has gone well in the sense that, it started with a change in the Secretary General before I was going to be gone, and now there's going to be a transition in the presidency, and you're already there. And so therefore we can, chain things together, and we can build up on what we've done before. As for the report of the President, you have here the events organized. Yesterday I told you basically what I've done, a lot of the things that I've done. You'll see here also in the activities a lot of things that President and Deputy President have done, and also of course there are many meetings or whatnot in which the President has been the present, Bureau meetings and all of those. So the activity is there to see. I don't want to extend myself any further. We've been working quite a bit, traveling quite a bit, and making sure that the ALI is well represented and fights the right fights in difficult places and of the world. We have reached the time limit for this morning. Please make sure that you can vote, that you go and vote if you wish so, and with your IDs. We have to adjourn the meeting until, Mr. Secretary General.
Mr. President, the program is slightly in flux today as we have the attendance of 4 West African presidents attending our Congress. It is scheduled for 12 o'clock, however, due to security requirements and the need for security sweeps and additional security measures, our program is essentially, we will keep the same running order, but the timing cannot be exact at this point. So we will proceed to start with our TED Talk sessions, which will now happen at 9:30, and the running order will remain the same. We will update the Congress plenary as to the changes in the time. We don't have the exact timings from security and protocol on the arrivals of our very esteemed delegation and delegates. So I'm afraid to say we have to play this a little bit by ear, but as I said, you can rely on the running order to remain the same. Our session at 3 o'clock with Senator Gazolaba on the theme resolution will stay at as close to possible at 3 because of various commitments of the speakers in that session. But I'm sorry to say, Mr. President, that having high-ranking delegations attending our Congress means that we have to be a little bit more flexible around our timings. So we will keep strict timing, we will keep the running order the same, and we will update the Congress regularly on proceedings at the end of each session about what the next timings are that can be expected.
Thank you very much. I've noticed that this morning our sessions have been attended but that there's been people in flux. How do we know, and how do we make sure that people know who have not been here, whatever, what to do if they want to vote? There's not much we can do.
Mr. President, many of the delegations are in the room, and we can also, as I said, we will recommunicate the information, possibly with a reminder between one or two of the sessions, maybe at about 11 or 11:30, when we have to adjourn for a break to allow the high-level delegations to come through. That would be an opportune time to go and vote, so around, I'd say, between 11 and 12, but we can update individuals. The main thing is if you see voting delegates, let them go to the Saal Interval, which I said is literally downstairs behind us, where the restaurant was. We have people on the ground who can talk the individuals through the voting process and explain any questions that they might answer. Yes, we'll do our best to marshal individuals. People are aware that voting started this morning, so they are aware that the location has not changed, the timing has changed slightly, but I think most delegates are only getting up now. So the basic information is still intact and unchanged, and we will do our best as a Secretariat to continuously communicate and remind individuals to go and vote.
Yes, it is, of course, the freedom to vote or not vote, but it's good that at least people know, whether the options and when it stops, and that until 1 they can vote, but not after that and whatnot. So please keep communicating that during the morning. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Ah, d'accord.
Hallo? Armin, kannst du mich hören?
Ja, yes.
Hallo, hallo?
Ja, ich kann dich hören.
Okay, we'll just leave it like it doesn't work.
Okay. Naka. Jox ma kii bi convertir DVI to DVI HD. Mooy DVI HD.
Off. Sorry, delegates, may I please request your attention? I'd just like to give an alert that we'd like to start the next session in the next 5 minutes. That would be the TED Talk. If you can, please use the 5 minute as a comfort break and then return to the main plenary hall. Please may you alert the other delegates that have stepped out of the room that the next session will start in the next 5 minutes. That's the TED Talk. Please use this as a comfort break for 5 minutes and return to the main plenary. The next session will start in 5 minutes. That is the TED Talk, yes. Thank you. I've got the booklet. Yes.
Right.